Hi, everyone. Let me just, I need to be able to share my screen.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
You are co-host now.
No worries. I was just about to say, before I start, as the first person, please bear with me through any technical difficulties like this one we just experienced. And thank you so much for everyone being here on their Monday morning to listen to my presentation. My name is Grace, and as you just heard, I'm with the Yolo County Resource Conservation District, and the working title of my project has been Building Local Climate Resilience Through Restoration, Education, and Outreach. So let me get started. I just wanted to give everyone a little overview of what my presentation is going to cover. So first, I'm going to go into kind of a background of Yolo County and then resource conservation districts in general, for those of you who don't understand necessarily. And then a little bit into what Yolo RCD is. After that, I'm going to go into what the goals were for my project at the outset, and then examples of some of the projects that I've worked on throughout my service year, and finish with my conclusions, challenges, successes, and things that I've learned from this year. Without further ado, okay, so going into the background. First, I want to acknowledge that Yolo County is home of the Patwin people and has been for thousands of years. Currently, that includes the Yochadihi Wintun Nation, which is one of the Yolo RCD's main project partners, or a major project partner and supporter of restoration in Yolo County, which is really, I think, a very cool aspect of Yolo County. The economy is definitely dominated by agriculture. As you can see in the land use map on the slide, everything in green is land used for agriculture, which this really characterizes Yolo County in general, and is part of the reason that having a project site in Yolo County fits really well into the GrizzlyCorps mission. The population in Yolo County is dominated by predominantly white and Hispanic or Latino. And it is also home of UC Davis, with close ties to UC Cooperative Extension and UC Agriculture and Natural Resources, which definitely characterizes the type of work that goes on in Yolo County and means that there's always a lot of education and research and close ties to the leading edge of agriculture in California. Now, as you might have heard, I served at a resource conservation district, and for those of you who are not involved directly in resource conservation districts, they can be really confusing or hard to understand. They're very special. They started along with the Natural Resource Conservation Service after the Dust Bowl, originally as soil conservation districts, but then later took on resources in general because there became an understanding that you can't focus on one type of resource. Everything is interconnected. In California, they really took off in the 1940s. And the point of the district specifically is to really be tied to the local sentiments and be able to really provide specialized support for conservation practices in smaller locations or districts, which usually align with county lines. On the slide, you can also see a map of all of the districts in California currently, and we have a California-wide resource conservation, California Association of Resource Conservation Districts, that oversees all of those conservation districts, and then each one operates individually. They're non-regulatory and managed by a board of local stakeholders. Some have employees, some do not. Everyone is different. Everyone is designed to specifically meet the needs of their district. And importantly, they also mostly rely on grant funding, which really has characterized the kind of work that they're able to do. Now on to Yolo County RCD, the place that I have been so lucky to serve in for the last year. Yolo County RCD has been operating since 1955, so there's a lot of history in Yolo County. We serve over 650,000 acres of agriculture, rangelands, public open spaces, and urban spaces. Now there isn't a lot of urban space in Yolo County, but in general, we rely a lot on local collaboration. We work closely with our Natural Resource Conservation Service office, which is actually downstairs from our Woodland office. We work with Point Blue, which is an independent service in our area. We also work with local NGOs, we work with local governments, we work with our local tribe. So we really could not do the kind of work that we do without our partnerships with these organizations. Some of our projects include restoration and weed management in Yolo County. This happens on all of the spaces that I described above. We also are working on a pretty massive Arundo eradication project in Yolo County. We're working to start a new fire safe council, and the list goes on. So as you can see, resource conservation districts really do take on a wide variety of different projects. Okay, so moving on. Now this is more what I focused on as a GrizzlyCorps fellow at the Yolo RCD. So at the beginning of the year, I met with the executive director and we discussed what exactly it was that Yolo RCD needed from me in my service year. And of course, these things were bound to change. But at the heart of my service year, I really worked to assist the RCD in general fieldwork activities. As you can see here, I'm planting grass plugs in an open space park in the city of Davis. I tried to increase the amount of accessible resources that the RCD provides to the community. And this came in the form of website resources or just being an open resource myself to people in the community. And I also sought to improve the outreach and communication that the RCD had with the local community, as well as other organizations that we partner with. So here are some examples of what that work looked like. First, this is an example of some of the restoration or field work that I took part in while being at the RCD, and I felt like this was a great example of everything that we do. So this is a hedgerow that we installed at the Maples, which is the headquarters of the Center of Land-Based Learning, one of our partners. It included the SLUES program, which is a great program that the Center for Land-Based Learning has started to get high school students out into nature. Unfortunately, with COVID this year, high school students weren't allowed to be there, but their mentors were. And there was even a really dedicated high school teacher who came out to one of our SLUES events and videotaped it for his class so that his students could still participate. This also is funded partially by the Yochadihi Winton Nation. We received support from the Poudre Creek Council, as well as the plants that came from the Xerces Society. So it's a great mix of a lot of different organizations, a lot of different community level participation. It also is a great example of adding biodiversity, increasing carbon sequestration, and really benefiting these farm edges, which are really important spaces that have a lot of benefit for improvement. So here you can see the farm edge going from barren, compacted dirt. And I say dirt because, it looks pretty lifeless here. Whereas on the other side, you can see now plants have started to grow. There's a grassland followed by hedgerow plants, shrubs and forbs for pollination. and it's really starting to come alive. So that was a really exciting project to be able to work on, and it's fun to see it continue to grow. Now, another thing, I wasn't in the field all the time. So another project that I worked on was updating the RCD's website. So you can see, here's a screenshot of the new and improved RCD website, which includes a different structure that better suits the information that we wanted to share, and makes it easier for a random passerby to be able to access that information. Additionally, I created resource-heavy pages to add to the website, like for the Yolo County Weed Management Area. On this page, you can find information about local weeds, how to prevent their spread, how to treat them if they're already there, and ways in which we as an RCD are helping to combat the issue of noxious weeds in Yolo County. Additionally, I completed this really cool project with assistance from Rose Joseph, who's another GrizzlyCorps fellow. She's serving at the RCD of Tehama. And we interviewed representatives from each of the RCDs in the Sac Valley region of RCDs, and these regions are set up by the California Association of RCDs. So in this region, by interviewing all of the individual representatives, we were able to create basically a gap assessment for each of these RCDs so that we can improve the collaboration that the RCDs can have with each other, with the idea that the more information that RCDs know about or have about each other, the easier it is to figure out where their strengths and weaknesses lie and where they could help each other in the future. So this is a really cool project because not only were we able to increase the capacity of our individual RCDs, we were also able to increase the future ability of that capacity to grow in the entire region, which, as we know, ecosystems don't, or environments don't necessarily exist on their own. And so if we want this region to succeed, it's really important that we're all able to work together and to lift each other up. Okay, so that was a little bit about my year. Now for a summary. There were certainly some challenges, and COVID-19 was definitely one of them. You know, when you talk about increasing outreach and really networking in the community and, you know, getting your boots on the ground, so to speak, having lockdown definitely doesn't help any of that. So there were certain things that were part of my goals in the beginning of the year that just lost steam because of the struggle of connecting and communicating and, you know, getting out there with a pandemic happening. Also, you know, a lot of my time was spent out in the field, and you never know what's going to happen. You never know what the weather is going to be. You never know what new problems you're going to have at your field sites, be that gophers that somehow take out all of your shrubs that you just planted, or a random rain event, although that didn't necessarily happen a lot this year. Or, for instance, this year, periods of dry weather where you have to suddenly go out into the field and make sure that all of your plants are watered, because who knows when they're going to get water again. And throughout this, you know, there is, with any new activity, a year is a short time to really feel like any sort of expert at anything. So this year seemed to fly by, and there's things that maybe took me the whole year to finally figure out and understand. I feel like now at the end of this year, certainly I've learned a lot, but there were always learning curves, and there's things that you'd like to be able to do, but it turns out maybe it wasn't as feasible in the time frame. Now, as far as the things that worked well, I was thrilled to be able to be involved on a wide array of projects at the RCD. I did from vegetation monitoring, like you can see in the picture, or planting, or maintaining equipment, learning to drive a stick shift, working in the Delta, working all over Yolo County on all different kinds of land with all different kinds of people. And I feel like that was one of the best parts of this program and this project in particular. Um, I felt like I was really able to bring my unique interests and skills to the RCD as a benefit to the organization, um, as well as gaining training and professional experience that I don't feel like I could have gotten anywhere else, and with a group of people that I truly admire and am very honored to have been able to work with. Um, I'm actually from Solano County, which is the neighboring county to Yolo, and spent a lot of my younger life growing up in Yolo County. So through this whole year, I was able to not only build new connections, but also strengthen these old connections that I had made um, when I was younger, and meet Yolo County from a professional lens, which was a very exciting opportunity for me. Uh, as far as lessons learned this year, I think the biggest one is adaptive management. This is a word that's thrown around in the RCD a lot, and it basically just means being able to take things in stride, not get too hung up on the details, and keep going forward even when challenges are thrown your way. You know, there's always a way to continue the work. And I feel like this year definitely taught me that. I also learned that RCDs are truly unique, especially through the Sac Valley Regional Capacity Assessment that I talked about earlier. You know, it was amazing to hear the wide variety of resources offered by RCDs, and the different structures that they all have, and the different ways that they all function. And that was a really cool, not only on organizational levels are they unique, but also just within them, you know, each person that we have on staff at the Yolo RCD is unique and offers a completely different perspective to certain projects. And the projects we take on are totally unique as well. And there's just a great diversity in the RCD world that I was really happy to learn about. And lastly, capacity building can take many forms. I think, you know, coming in, I had a strict idea of what I thought, you know, capacity goals and would be and what it meant to meet them. But I've come to learn that there's so much work to be done that, you know, sometimes you have to change what your standards are for your goals and expectations of a certain project. So in any case, that is my presentation. Thank you all again for listening on this Monday morning. And do you have any questions for me? Okay, if Michelle and Eliza could help with the management of questions, because I am struggling.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the easiest way would be for people to raise their hand, and then I can allow them to talk, or type in a question to the chat. Looks like Jason said, what was your favorite moment during your term?
That's a hard one. I feel like I really did enjoy going to work every day. So it's hard to specify. I think most recently my favorite moment was we just held our local working group meeting for Yolo County with the NRCS office. And I had the responsibility of managing everyone's slides. And halfway through the presentation, there was this earthquake, which was not expected. But we kept going and it was fine. And the presentation ended up going really well. And it just felt really good to be a part of that team on that day doing that work, which was communicating our projects to the community and having the community communicate back to us what they valued or what they wanted changed. And so that was a really fun, not exactly project, but that was just really fun to be involved in.
Awesome. And yeah, and looks like there's another question in the chat from the manager of East Merced RCD. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you want to happen for Yolo RCD?
Oh, a magic wand, I think, would be having unlimited amount of hours to do the work that we want to do, with as much money as possible to do that work, or at least as much government and local support as possible, because I feel like the work that's getting done is so important. But you're always stopped with a 40-hour work week, or only so many hours budgeted in your grant, or only so much money in your grant period. So I feel like that's what I would want for the RCD.
And Tanya asked, what was the most valuable thing you learned?
That's another tough question. Wow, yeah. I learned so much. I think probably the most valuable is just I now have more confidence in myself as a professional in this field. And I think I could have only gained that in the wonderful environment that was the Yolo RCD. So I'd say that's probably the most valuable lesson that I've learned.
Great. I think the rest of the comments are great, deep appreciations to you, Grace, which I will absolutely echo. Anyone else have any? Oh, looks like we have one more question from Jeanette. How has learning to drive a manual transmission vehicle and fix equipment changed your perspective?
I'd say to that it totally makes me feel like a more useful restoration practitioner. And that, again, has completely helped my level of confidence in this field as a professional. Learning how to drive a manual transmission was like kind of a life goal of mine. And so now I feel like a real adult that can drive any car, which is really exciting. But it also taught me, how capable I am of learning new things, because I started with, zero experience and quickly was able to, especially with a manual transmission vehicle, drive it around by myself, which is very empowering. And then I've always loved being able to fix things and work with my hands. And so just to add more of those skills to my repertoire, I feel like just makes me feel more whole in my level of expertise.
Well, again, thank you so much, Grace. Really appreciate everything you've done this service year. It's truly been incredible. We'll close it up with that last question, so we can get Bryce started. But thank you again, Grace. And we'll be ending the recording right now, and the recording will be available afterwards. So if anyone would like to watch again or share with anyone, that will be available. So thanks again, Grace.
Thank you.